3. Ti portano inside, side, side, side.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Slav Branovsky. I'm the founder of Elegant Club. Today we speak about building a right strategy for your finance in the startup and making sure you're making everything right regarding your finance strategy, finance approach, making sure you do everything right. So today we have a special invited guest. As always, we will talk about multiple options how you can optimize your finance in the startup and also how to make it attractive for investors. So today we have a 2 hour session. This session is in particular related to our project, our book project called How to Build a Tech Startup. So that particular topic today we have is related to this project. If you'd like to know more about our upcoming project, so you're more than welcome to go to howtobuildatechstartup.com website and see more information. So today is very essential topic because a lot of challenges related to phone. And in case you get any questions, feel free to post your comments or a question in chat. If you watch us on YouTube channel or LinkedIn Live, you're more than welcome to introduce yourself, ask your any question, and we will cover this particular topic. So yes, today we speak about the finance. In case you're interested to take a look more about our Elegant Club information, you're more than welcome to take a look at our socials. We are on Instagram, on Twitter, WhatsApp, email, a LinkedIn group, and Facebook group. As I said before, you're more than welcome to prepare your special question related finance in a startup. And now I would like, first of all, to introduce our special guest tonight, Liliana Kaimakan from London. Liliana, good evening. So if you can join our discussion, and also, I would like to introduce yourself. Even I know that you already attended our events before, but still for our new attendees, that would be great. And my first question for sure related to finance, as we discussed about the finance in the tech startup. So it's very common case that entrepreneurs, they at the idea stage and they don't know how to figure out this finance question, how to find money or the resources for building an MVP or building the first version of product. So maybe you can give a tip based on your feedback and experience you have at How Founders Lab. So Liliana, good evening.
Good evening, Slava. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me for this session today. So definitely, my experience is very much within the corporate environment, where I spend quite a lot of time supporting big companies to create innovations and really find opportunities and ways to fund these innovations outside of the normal way of doing things. But also, this can be very easily translated into the startup environment, where definitely we need to find ways to support and finance the idea we have. So I'm currently a professor of HALT International Business School on topics like design thinking, entrepreneurship, and also leading the HALT Founders Lab, our incubator, student incubator at the university, where we support students to bring their ideas to life. Coming to your question, Slava, on how can we, how can you find finance, to create and build your first idea to life? I think first and the most important is to try to get that option of your MVP, that first proposal of your prototype, in such a way that's very cost efficient. Really trying to understand and utilizing all the variable free resources. And not only this, just looking into how exactly can you bring this to life by trying to have a low investment. Of course, when we're talking about initial funding, it is most of the time, using the personal money or friends and family. So that will be the first source of funding. Talk about this to create your first MVP. So I think that's the starting point. And then in the moment when you have your first version of your MVP, then you can start presenting and going to this towards the external world and try to find some other sources. But I think it is quite important to make sure that you can identify some initial resources which will allow you to create the first iteration of your MVP. and try to utilize as much as possible the available, I would say, free resources or very low cost resources which exist out there.
Thank you very much, Liliana, for your introduction and also your contribution regarding the resources. And there is a kind of additional question related to this, I guess. As you know, a lot of students and early stage entrepreneurs, they're trying to make projections of cash flow, how much they will have sales, even they don't have the idea, but they need still to come up with some sort of the business plan and maybe some kind of projections, how profitable it can be and beyond. So if the startup at the idea stage, and definitely there are no sales cycle, and it's very hard to predict how many sales startup may have. So how would you advise to make projections regarding the cash flow if you just about to start your idea? Maybe you can have some advice on that.
Yeah, as you said, Slava, it's very hard in a very early stage to start making some prediction about the cash flow. But definitely you can have some estimation. So I think the most important, there are few fundamental things you need to know from a very early stage. First, it is you need to understand your market size, and based on this, what it is the market share you aim to achieve. And because this will be translated into your revenue. So basically, this will guide you and understand what it is your revenue projection, and then moving further, how this can evolve and grow as you grow. How many customers can you reach and bring to as part of your with your startup. And then the other important point, it is understanding how much these customers are ready to pay for your product, where you'll position in terms of the price point. And that's another very important thing, because of course this will have a huge impact on further on your profitability. Again, it is even you are in a very early stage, it is important to understand where and how can you produce your the product or service. How does this look like, and what would be some initial costs involved to realize that specific solution, service, product, whatever you are going to offer to your startup. So I think these are fundamental aspects you need to have in mind from the beginning of of the startup, in the moment when you are in an early stage of your development. So look into the market, and based on this, understand what is the market size you can have, and then based on this, how many customers are you going to reach. What is the price point you want to sell your product or your service, and then a rough idea about possible costs involved to develop that specific solution. So you need all these things which will feed into further into your P&L and profit and loss, and based on this you can generate further down the line balance sheet, and then you really will need to understand, okay, how much is the funding you need, how much money do you need, how much money you are going to spend, what's the moment when you are going to start generating revenue, and then also establish what would be a break-even point for your idea. So I would suggest that will be some key points, probably basic principles of accounting if we go to on finance, but I think they're quite important. Probably most of the people will say, but how do I know how much I can sell? How can I really estimate the size of the potential size of my market? I think we have available a lot of resources out there we can utilize, which will estimate the market size for a certain product or segment where we are going to operate. We can look to some competitive reviews and understand exactly how much our competitors or main competitors are selling. Where are they positioned in terms of the price point, and then having very clarity in terms of what it is the business, our value proposition, how we are positioned versus our key competitors. We'll be able to understand where can position ourselves from a price perspective, and then looking into the development of our key competitors, we can understand what would be our possible development. Yeah, and if we don't have a direct competitor, we can connect with in this very early stage. Definitely would be something we can use as what we call proxy. It's something quite similar in that specific space, or something consumers do use currently, even they're not very satisfied with that specific idea, which can basically we aim to be replaced with our solution. So these are kind of key aspects you need to take into account and start really putting some initial numbers and some initial thoughts around your financial and business model.
Thank you very much, Liliana, and thank you for your great, insightful start of our discussion. And for sure, it's quite tough, again, as you said, to keep that projections, very accurate, because we all of that down to assumptions and some market research and initial figures we can find in some open data. And I would like also to cover the points related to sales, because definitely we also need to make some projections regarding sales, and definitely it's partially related to our marketing activities. And now I would like to invite our another expert tonight from Malta, Giovanni Mule. Giovanni, if you can join our discussion. Giovanni, our expert in marketing, and Giovanni, maybe you can give an advice how to also make projections regarding your cash flow, and maybe make projections regarding your marketing expenses, and how much money basically you need to run your marketing activities, and also how much customers you may attract. Maybe you can give an advice to that.
That was quite a loaded question. Yes, sure. My name is Giovanni Mule. I help startups and professionals to build their online presence using content marketing and paid ads to make more sales. Been doing this for the last 4 years. I can't wait to answer this question because I have some good tips as well. Thanks, Liliana, for some great pinpoints there. Indeed, the fact that it's really hard actually to make projections when you don't know your numbers yet, but in a way you have to make sales. Knowing the costs of your products definitely helps. And another thing that I would add for that is, I would say, start imagining your first client or your first customer. How much would he pay? And it obviously depends on the problem that you are actually solving. How important is the problem that you are solving or the need that you are meeting? And yeah, regarding projections, I would say make the first sale, and then start seeing how much it costs to get to that first client or to that first sale, because that's definitely a great indicator of what is going to take to actually make the next sale. And yeah, from a marketing point of view, I would say not necessarily to budget the marketing, but take in consideration the fact that without it there is no actual business, because at the end of the day, it's a business indeed. So it needs to make profits, and profits come from sales, people actually buying the products. So I would say get your first client, sell your first product, and do all you can to actually do that, because once you do that, you actually have a business. And I think that's a great thing to keep in mind when someone has an idea, because obviously it's execution that makes it happen, and it's the actual sale, the moment that you are actually receiving money for that you can actually say you have a business, because you have a paying client. I have a funny story for that. Maybe I'll tell it later.
Thank you, Giovanni, and thank you for your start about making the first sale, which can be essential point to understand how much money you need and how much sales you can make, and all the expenses can be a bit more clear. I think the toughest question, as always, and I know you've been involved into multiple new venture creation across your entrepreneurial journey. So the typical question being asked by many entrepreneurs that they don't have enough finance to cover R&D, product development, and this is the challenging part, especially for those entrepreneurs maybe with no tech background. So what advice you can give? how to fulfill this finance question to build up an R&D, would you recommend to find a co-founder if it's tech background, to make a loan, to attract investment? How did you deal with that in your past, and what advice you can give to those who just about to build the product today?
Yeah, great question, actually. I think that it really depends on the context of the startup itself. Obviously, if we are talking about physical products, it is depending on whether you have to mass sell to actually make a profit, or you just need to sell. It's a niche product, so you need just few sales to make it happen, or to cover the costs and actually be in profits. So I think it's very context based, and instead, for example, in the case of services, I would say that it's up to the founders, and if it's in the case of tech startups, yes, obviously, I guess that you can tell more about that for sure, since you are a tech guy. But in general, I think that it's great to have a tech expert as a co-founder, where obviously you share the knowledge and you share the vision, and it's a lot easier to be let's say in control, to shape the products that or the services that you are going to sell.
Thank you very much, Giovanni, for that. I think it was very essential answer, simply because, as you said, you don't have tech background, and it was very valuable to share your opinion on that, because the many entrepreneurs, they don't have some tech expertise and knowledge on that. Equally, I want to ask you advice, again, based on your work with customers regarding the marketing activities in your own startup projects. How far should you plan your finance projections? How far you look forward in order to see how many sales you aim to make, how much marketing activities you aim to build? So is it about 1 month upfront, 6 months, 1 year? What would you advise as well?
Yeah, I mean, for this kind of strategic planning, in a way, I would say that it really depends on how stable is your environment, in a way. Because if you are in a team, if you are the co-founder, or you have other co-founders in your team, and you know them for a long time, you already have established a relationship. You know that you can work together through every challenge that a startup is going to take you through. I think you can allow yourself to dream a bit further than maybe months or even years, because you know that you have some stability. And I think that that stability I'm referring to has to do with the team, obviously, and why not even geographically, in a way. And the other has to do obviously with your capital you're starting with, or your confidence in going there and getting some capital or sales. So in general, I would say plan short, medium, and long term, because it's just more practical to actually see what are the next steps that you have to follow through to get to that medium, which could be maybe months away from now, and that long term vision where you know that is guiding the medium and shorter term goals.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. I think it was very helpful as well to understand, and thank you for mentioning that kind of the split in the objectives for short and long-term goals as well. I also would like to ask Liliana, based on your experience working with students and startups at Hot Founders Lab. I know, I know. Sorry, that students also, they make planning of finances, and also they make some projections. What would be your advice? How far forwards they need to plan? And another very tricky question, I guess. I know that some startup founders, they include salaries in projections, how much they're willing to get as a salary. So also, what would be your advice? How much startup founders should get as a possible salary, and how far to look forward regarding the projections in general, please?
I think, very clear, as Marco just said, in a very early stage, it's very hard to make all projection on a long term, but it's good to start from somewhere and put some numbers. Yeah, so I think no matter where you are, as long as you want to start a business, you need to know your numbers somehow, and you need to start from somewhere. Even there will be a lot of assumptions in the first stage. So you need to put them, and I would say always start to look into at least 3 years ahead. Start to think, what do you want to achieve in the first 6 months, 3 to 6 months, 12 months, and then go and see, okay, where exactly can you go based on the market environment and competitive environment where you operate, what can be achieved in a bit at least medium term. That's what we call medium term. Because definitely this will feed into your startup evaluation as you go further, and then you start getting more clarity in terms of the number, how they look like, what can be achieved, and where your business can go, and especially in a preparation for a possible introduction and pitch towards some possible investors. So I think it's very important in the moment when you start and have a business idea, do your research and understand your market. This will feed into the numbers and feed into your initial projections. You can't go too far away in a very early stage, but I think you need to have an idea about at least first 3 years. What does this mean? Now, what can be achieved? How big is that market? How big your revenue can be, and based on this, you'll see also where you can become profitable, for your startup. Talking about including or not including salaries, probably in very early stage, I think you may invest money into your startup rather than expect to have a salary. So probably this is going to come up on a later stage, but definitely that's another expense you need to include into your cash flow. So you need to have projection around possible expenses related to operation of the startup. Yeah, so from transportation or basic aspects related to the setup of the company itself. You may require some of the things may come for free, but some initially, but at a later point you may need to pay for them. Yeah, all the stationery, the place where you are located, transportation, so on and so forth, all these kind of aspects, technology use, or this, and then definitely probably you would be a moment when you start kind of mapping into the salary of you as a founder, part of that specific company. That's my personal view, but probably early stage, initial stage is very much about have it up and running, have your first clients, understand how does it work, understand the costs, distribution, do some tests, and then definitely embed this into your projections. Anyway, the initial P&L you will create, the initial business plan probably will change many times. When you reach top form, you will be able to present and make really business sense. But it's good to start from somewhere. If you have no numbers, you may end up being in a phase of 6 months after you start, you realize that you generate no profit. You have high expenses, so you need to see how you manage all these aspects from the early stage to be able to have a good foundation for your business.
Thank you very much, Liliana, for sharing this. I think it's very essential. We're covering the very important questions because they all related to early stage venture creation. I think also, Giovanni, you can contribute to our discussion regarding salaries, because I still think it's quite tough question, especially for those startup founders who are looking somehow to cover the expenses, and they think, okay, how they can use some kind of cash flow out of the startup income. So maybe you can give your advice also based on your experience. How did you manage that before, or what advice you can give to others, please?
Yeah, it makes me think of Steve Jobs, that I'm not 100% sure if it's a myth or not, that he was paying himself a salary of $1 per year, and yeah, I think that it's based on the fact that sometimes being a founder or starting a business might be an escape for a full-time job or a different career path, etc. And unfortunately, since it can be the case, we want to build that business to make profit or to give ourselves a salary. I think that I don't know where I was reading that, but it was said that for your community it's better for you to make a profit than actually have a salary. But this, it can be part of another discussion. I think that in general it should be accounted the fact that you are gonna have to count your salary in. But I think that before you actually project your salary, you should make enough sales to say that the business is sustainable and profitable. And once that's profitable, I think that it should be considered to add the salary, because it's better. I mean, I think it makes no sense to have a salary of a business that it's not still a full up and running business. But I think that dreaming and actually starting visualizing that, it's not a bad idea anyways.
Thank you, Giovanni. And I think the salaries for sure, it's great to have, but for sure one of the first objectives at the early stage of your startup development is making sure your startup is generate some cash flow, some sales, and ideally reaching the break-even point. And so basically your expenses becoming less than your profits. So how long you would suggest to count that, how quick you should break even? Maybe based on your previous speeches and previous experience, how long do you think startups should aim to break even? Is it about a year, 2 years, few months? What would be the right approach? Because definitely it's also related to your marketing activities, your sales plan. So how would you recommend to start up to break even? How quick?
I think again it really depends on how driven and skilled can be the team, or at least the resources to outsource their help. Definitely, it depends on their costs and so on. But I would say, as a founder, I would say the least time you can take to break even, the better, as long as it doesn't compromise your health, your clients' health, your teams, and that you're not compromising as well the quality of your product or your services. I think that scalability is a thing that needs to be taken in consideration here, and obviously it depends again on the type of startup. But in general, I think that it's good to have a realistic projection of when one can break even and start being profitable. But being conservative, I think it's still better to push and make sure that you're breaking even before than your goal.
Absolutely, absolutely, Giovanni. I think that's what exactly you said. That definitely, ideally, it's need to break even as quick as possible, and ideally, it's great if your break even point somewhere less than 1 2 years, because there are so many high growth startups available for investment opportunities, and therefore, in order to become attractive for investment, you need to have very quick ability to break even quickly. But equally, as you know, and I also want to ask Liliana, as you know, there are many startups that actually initially rely not on sales, but they rely on angel investment in order to fulfill all the expenses, all the operational costs, and making sure they have enough funds to cover all of these activities. So my advice, ask to you, Liliana, if possible, to would be, what would be your advice if startup founders should rely on sales first, or they need to attract and secure some investments to be able to convince them capital, and then they can scale up and focus on the growth of the company? How would you advise
I
on?
I think ideally, Slava, is to definitely you need some investment from outside, and that's happening in most of the cases. So you need to have, but in order to convince any investor to put money in your business, you need to have a clear business plan. So you need to show them when and how are you going to make money. You need to show that your idea is becoming profitable, that you've done your homework, and you know exactly, you have a clear value proposition. You understood exactly, at least in this early stage, you know what's your market, who are your competitors, how you can basically engage with your customers and how you can and when you can generate sales. It may take a while till to transform this into revenue, your idea into revenue. But that's probably also you need some external investment in order to get and keep your business going. So I would say be prepared to have initially some capital or be able to attract some capital to invest in your startup, in your business idea, and then till the sales will allow your company to function. Yeah, so which may not be at the beginning, from very initial phase. Even you generate some revenue, some sales at the beginning, they may not be enough to support and ensure a continuous, a development of the business itself. For example, if you have an MVP, if you have your first iteration of your product or solution or service or whatever it is, yeah, it's probably that's not the final one. That will require some further investment until you reach a form or a shape which will allow you to really extend and get into and achieve a bigger market share. So it's very important, I would say, to ensure investment from the beginning, to ensure you can support the operation and the business to run, of course. And then also talking about, Giovanni touched about the marketing investment. I think this is coming. You need to project and include this into your plan, into your business plan. Definitely, choosing the right channels, the most appropriate one for your activity. But again, you need some budget for this too. So definitely, coming to the question, I think you need external investment in the early stage of your business, but ensure to get the sales as soon as possible, and try to ensure this balance, and you prove that your idea works. I think having sales prove that your idea is feasible, that your business can work and can generate revenue, and definitely that feed into the trust from external investors, and then they will continue investing in your business.
Thank you very much, Ileana. I think it was very helpful also for startup founders to understand how they can manage that, because, as I said before, it's quite tricky to keep balance between objectives and focus on sales, and also trying to secure investments, because also it's very time consuming and challenging, especially at early stage when there is no revenue yet. And I would also like to ask Giovanni, based on your Giovanni experience in marketing, because as you know, it's quite often happens that some startups, they trying to be quite aggressive on the market regarding the pricing strategy in order to attract customers quickly. And the point is that some startups, they may realize that they want to offer the cheapest solution or product on the market, so basically make some damping. So what would be your advice on that? Can you do damping on the market? Is it a good strategy, or you wouldn't recommend that from marketing perspective and perspective of your sales growth?
I mean, I think that if that's the strategy to get the first clients, to get to be known, then it might work. There are plenty of successful cases where that happened. The questions to be asked in that case would be if it is sustainable for the business model in the long term, whether they are going to fulfill their market and at some point be just compared to another competitor that is maybe providing a better service, or maybe even a less useful service, but on a higher price, because they are investing more on marketing, since they are actually making more revenue because of their prices. So I think it really depends on the long-term strategy there, but it's definitely one way to start, especially because at the beginning of the business journey, you want to test the market. You want to make sure that your product is not only validated by word, but literally used, and anyways, the product is going to evolve. The services are going to be changed, or with new add-ons, or or new features. So I think that it's super important to actually have a strong foundation even before the product is launched or the service is marketed, and that's because you start testing early. So the better you know how the market is responding to your product, the best you actually know if the pricing is right. In the case where you can't really validate, I think that it could be a good strategy to start with the less expensive offer, and just to get started and get feedback. And once you know that your product is or your service is actually more valuable because people are telling you that, because you're getting testimonials, because you are seeing the client's results or satisfaction, then I think that's the case where you can definitely raise your prices. But as well, in a way, if the market is still the same, you also have to add another feature. You also have to provide more value in that case to continue the scalability and the growth anyways.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. Thank you for this. And that was Giovanni's reflection on is it possible to go quite risky on the market and try to offer maybe the most affordable, the cheapest solution in the market. Equally, for sure, it can be beneficial sometimes, but it's need to be very careful regarding long-term objectives, how long you can keep your kind of positioning on the market with that aggressive marketing strategy and sales growth. Equally, I know that one of the challenges for a startup is also making sure you have right allocation of your finance resources across your operational activities, such as marketing, sales, R&D, some other expenses. So, looking back to your experience again dealing with some startups and companies regarding the marketing activities, how much would you recommend to allocate for marketing in particular, and what do you think is the main operational cost in a startup? If you speak about early stage when the startup just entering the market, so how would you advise to kind of to create that balance across operational costs, and especially how much you would recommend to spend on the marketing?
Yeah, I think that the number one spending when you are starting up is definitely coffee or tea, 100%. But jokes apart, I think that the number one thing to take in consideration is building the product and marketing it, because at the end of the day, it's all about indeed building and selling. Or in a way, you could say packaging it, if it's a service or if it's a digital product or if it's a knowledge-based product. But in general, answering to your question, I would say that with the marketing side, and I can say it even against me as a consultant, I would say that the ideal for a startup is to indeed start with less expenses possible. And they have I've came across a lot of founders that wants to make these Facebook ads. They want to be seen, they want to attract attention, they want to be seen, they want to be liked, commented, shared, become viral, etc., etc. But that doesn't grant the survival of the startup, because it's not necessarily a golden ticket for sales. What I think that can be, in or most of the cases, it is a golden ticket for sales, and so surviving and thriving of the startup, especially at the beginning, is again to build a strong community while you're actually building your startup. And what I mean by community, I mean either a Facebook group, either your Instagram, your LinkedIn page, anywhere you know that the people who would enjoy most your product or your services spend most time at. If it's for professionals, obviously LinkedIn is a great place. If it's for youngsters, TikTok is the place. And start creating content. Start sharing this journey of you and your team, and as well as your mentors, as well as people that are inspiring you, and yeah, consume content and share content. This will basically lead to a lot of people that will like you, your idea, and will give you feedback, will motivate you in a way, because you know that there are good eyes on you, in the sense that there is people who are actually interested in what you are doing, and that are really seeing your journey starting from scratch, um, adding that little vulnerability spice, as I like to say sometimes, and yeah, that will definitely lead you to then launch a product. And after, for example, before getting to the product, I would say after, let's say, 6 months, where you are sharing your journey, and you know that in 6 months you're going to have your product ready, and by the time you are creating the account to the time that you are launching your product, you haven't tried to sell anything to them, but you just tried to connect, to get feedback, to share your journey, to show all the ups and downs of this startup. I think that in 6 months, when you have this group, this community following you and your journey and your product, once you already know that they are already validated because of that, the moment you say, hey, actually, we launch it, it's ready, because we already posted that it was a -5 days, -4, -3, -2, -1 day. So now they know that you're launching the product, and they know what you went through, and they know how much value there is in there. So it will be a lot easier to actually buy the product and start early without any spending, apart from perhaps your time. So in this case, I would say, yeah, the best budget would be based on your time and your effort. And after that, I would say to start accounting paid ads and external consultants and so on.
Thank you very much, Giovanni, for your advice on how to balance your operational cost in a startup. I think this is very essential for early stage ventures, and for sure, again, it's kind of very tricky to find this balance, and also to find that kind of the clear roadmap of what's the priority. And I think what is the another challenge I want to highlight here, and maybe Liliana also, if you can join our discussion, is that some startups, they're looking for some cash flow projection, some sales growth, and they're really looking for some positive cash flow on their balance sheet. But equally, some startups, they really believe in the power of attracting more users, more customers as quick as possible. So there is a kind of the balance and kind of the challenge to find this balance between cash flow and user growth. What would you advise? What is more important at the early stage of your venture creation?
I think in the early stage is very much to get the user base, and actually you need to get the balance at the end of the day. So you definitely want to have more and more customers, to acquire customers. That should be the main objective in an early stage of your startup. But then, of course, then you need to understand what is the cost of acquisition, how much cost you to really get any new customer, and how you keep the right balance between this cost, investment, and the revenue generated for the from that specific customer. So I think that's the most thing, because also you don't want to extend so too quickly. Then your operational support will not allow you to extend and generate and basically deliver whatever your service or your product. So happen many times, and we've seen a lot of situations when you get, somebody extended too far and too quickly, then they are not able to provide right quality of services. So I would say acquisition and customer acquisition should be the priority in an early stage of the startup. So you want to have customers, because otherwise your business does not exist. It's just a nice drawing on some papers, or can be a design in a computer or whatever it is. So you need to attract customers. You need to get more and more customers. Then that's point number one. Point number two, it is you need to understand and balance and make sure that you know very well what is the cost of acquisition of any customer. So in the moment when you have clarity on this, then you know how far and how quickly you can extend. You know what exactly it is. It is the investment which is needed to make sure that they support the specific expansion, while you provide something at a high quality. So customer engagement and customer satisfaction should be also very at the heart of your business and business extension from day one. Yeah, so I think aiming to deliver a product which has a high quality, something which really satisfies the customer needs in the best way possible, it's fundamental, simply because that's the way you keep your customers. Yeah, so customer satisfied will recommend you further. And, you know, we know ratings and reviews and recommendations are key, especially in a very early stage for you to acquire customers. So while in the moment when you deliver and have a customer which is not satisfied, basically will take you another 12 times or 12 tries to achieve, to basically kind of erase any kind of issues you generated with your product or service. And nobody in an early stage, a product not known or a service not known, will not give you too many chances. So it's very important to ensure that you deliver high level of customer satisfaction, and then and keep going and make sure that you always keep this going. We've seen a lot of companies who just extended very, very quickly, and I think Zoom, for example, faced this situation in the moment when we all went into onto Zoom in lockdown and start utilizing, and you had the companies, and then you get a blockage and basically didn't work properly. So they really need to invest quickly, adapt and adjust, and keep the product going into good space. So to conclude probably to this question, Slava, I think customer acquisition is very important. Make sure that you have an understanding of the cost of acquisition, but make sure that you deliver a high customer experience, and you keep delivering. And with your expansion, you don't put any pressure or reduce this customer satisfaction in relation to your product.
Thank you very much, Liliana. Again and again, this is very essential topics we covered today. Finance in the startup is essential for any type of startups and projects, and there are so many challenges going on there. And it's you're absolutely right. It's need to be balanced, and finding this balance is the key for success in financial success of a startup. And for sure, there are different strategies, as you mentioned, that some startups, they focus on high growth strategy, and some startup, they trying to go step by step and trying to make sure they making it in the right time with enough, and then they have enough resources to provide that kind of the further growth. Equally, I also would like to ask Giovanni, looking to your marketing activities with your customers and your own entrepreneurial ventures, that it may be done in a different way. You can focus on saving money and moving slowly, step by step, trying to make sure you have enough resources. You kind of bootstrapping your startup, and you're not relying on any external resource. Or you can focus on attracting capital and grow as fast as possible as well. So I believe you saw both examples of startup journeys, those who really wanted to grow fast and those who wanted to be a bit more safe, and they kind of wanted to make sure they have enough resources. So what would be your advice and maybe your reflection on that? Because you definitely, again, have enough expertise on that because of your marketing background and experience. So please share your thoughts on that.
Well, that's a great question, because it goes down to again the vision of the entrepreneur, of the founder. I think in general, everyone likes to make money in a way, as a rule of thumb, and I guess nobody wants to argue with that. In general, though, as well, or let's say more specifically, it depends on the type of venture, and how long is the founder willing to sacrifice, in a way, finances as well and growth for, let's say, building a community or making sure that the product is right. In general, as for the agile model of startups, I think we can say that the earlier a product is actually published or launched, the best. and there are plenty of ways to do that, as well for physical products like crowdfunding, etc., which gives you obviously the initial capital to start. And yeah, I think that Liliana said something great about the fact that you also have to keep up with the pace that you are aiming at, and I think that it doesn't bother to actually try to go maybe on a faster pace, because it will give you momentum to get started. And if you're doing something right, the market will show you by making more sales indeed, and getting feedback. And in that case, I think that in a way it's better to have more sales, and actually needing to hire somebody else, or to add more resources to your startup, because you can't keep pace, than actually being so slow that you're not making any sales, or you're not testing your product as quick as possible, and indeed it will in a way jeopardize the ability to go and get more capital as well. So I would say go as fast as you can in a sustainable way, using the voice of clients and customers to guide the direction you have to take, and the speed that you have to keep pace at.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. I think it was extremely insightful for those who just about to build up own strategy if they aim to build a fast grow startup company, or they want to have a bit more safe way. And I would like to ask Liliana, based on your experience of especially the pitch day events we had at Half Founders Lab before, as you know, and most of the times startup founders, they pitched for some early stage seed investment or angel investment, and it's always kind of the challenge to make sure that investors are satisfied with the projections, because definitely they want to see scalability potential, they want to see the ambition of startups to grow fast, but equally they want to see the pragmatic approach, and they want to make sure that startup founders, they have maturity in the way they understand the reality and how real their projections. So how would you advise to make cash flow plan attractive for investors, especially if we talk about seed rounds or angel rounds, when again it's pretty much very tough question of trust and belief, in particular in entrepreneurs, and how they are realistic in their projections as well?
Okay, now I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
I think that really a few fundamental things here. So we start from the idea, and make sure that the idea you have is going to bring value. How, and make sure that you are very, very clear in your business idea, in your business model, how your idea, what is your value proposition, and how this is going to bring value to your customers. So I think that's point number one. Point number two, it's very important to understand your market and market environment. Where do you operate? Yeah. So and what exactly is the potential of that idea? So I think that's also a very important aspect to highlight, and kind of include into your business plan and show it to possible investors. In terms of the numbers, everybody knows that these numbers may change, especially if you talk about early stage startup. As you get more details and more understanding of the market you operate, more understanding of how the customers can utilize and engage with your solution. Of course, you can refine and define different ways to engage. Communication and all the other aspects will play an important role. I think here it is. Try to balance your optimism with some realistic figures, and see also how to get into how to adjust and show potential of your business. I think that an investor basically is looking, especially in this early stage, and if you want to get traction for them, it is understanding to how big is the value of your business, how important is that in the life of the consumers, how you can engage with them, and then you get and translate this into the money, so it really bring this from the money perspective. So I think that these are some clear points. Of course, somebody showing some big numbers from the beginning may be something unrealistic, and then will not necessarily build credibility. But also being very prudent in the way you build your cash flow, your business plan. Again, that's not something. So you need to find the right balance. It is about value. It is about customer engagement and how do you offer value. And maybe also another important thing in the conversation with any investor is about the team. So a startup is not just the founder itself, himself or herself. Yeah. So you should show that there is a team together. You have a team you can count on, a team which will be able to support the development of the company. So I think this is what an investor would like to see, that there is potential, the startup brings value, there is a team capable to implement whatever that solution is and reach out to the customers, and then look into kind of I would say rather realistic type of projection into the numbers. And I think also it's important to know your numbers. Yeah, so you need to know your market, you need to know the environment where you operate. You need to kind of know the numbers when you talk about costs. You need to make sure if you talk about marketing activities and marketing plan, you know very clearly why you go in a certain, why you use a certain channel, one or the other, and how this is going to bring you customers. So definitely it's very important to know your what we call why, and then will be translated to what activities you are going to do and how this will be implemented in that specific environment.
Thank you, Liliana. Thank you so much for your reflection on how to make that cash flow plan attractive for investors and what are the objectives they have. Definitely, dealing with investors is always tough. Sometimes there are debates on that, and also some kind of the negotiations about the equity, about some kind of amount of investment you may attract. And I believe at the early stage of your startup, especially if we talk about angel investments, I saw so many stories when investors were disagree with company valuation. So basically, how much equity startup founders willing to give for a certain amount of money. So, if again we speak about early stage startup, what would be your advice to those startups which have debates with investors about the company valuation? Would you take the deal, or would you try to push a bit? Because the startup founders, they have less power, isn't it? So investors,
Yeah.
they likely have more opportunities. So that's the question: how to find that right and intelligent approach to make also the good deal for startups.
I think, Slava, here it is about how much do you believe in your idea, and how much do you know your customer and what you can bring and how you can bring value. I think in the moment when all these aspects are very clear to you, and you are able to translate this and share this with whoever, that investor, that anything, anybody else, you are talking about your business, then basically I think you can become very convincing and get them to invest. I think these days there are various ways in the way you can raise capital, for example, now. So you don't need to go to one single investor. You can go to various directions where you can get investment. Then you can have crowdfunding, and you can have some other opportunities where you can, in the moment when you clearly show value of your business, then you can get people investing into your business idea, and you convince them to progress further with whatever your proposition. So I think that's becoming quite important to bring to.
Thank you very much, Liliana, for that advice on how to negotiate and also find the right approach dealing with investors. I would ask Giovanni also to reflect on that, because that's very tough question as well. And maybe you have own experience with how you observed startup founders negotiate with investors, and maybe your experience in the past also can give some food for thinking. Giovanni, please join us.
Yeah, I think that in general, like you would say that getting an investor is always the hype in a way. You say, I want investment, I want, this is my idea, I'm gonna get investments, and that's great. I think that um, that that's definitely a direction, but not the only one. Because if you really believe in your idea, indeed, and you have someone in your team, or you have some experience to start putting it out there without the need of external capital, or simply because you believe it so much that you can somehow borrow money or get investors on board through your networks, through your personal network, I think that's even better, because it gives you um, more control on your idea and on your startup. But then again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best option possible, because maybe an investor on board will not only provide money, but some expertise, some other type of support. Maybe they have a network of potential clients. Maybe they have a network of partnerships that is going to open up straight away for you just after getting the investment. So I would say to go for investors, not only for the money, but as well for the value that they can bring on, and especially for the term and conditions, indeed, whether they are experts in the field that you are dealing with. Are they are they simply interested in your idea because they can make profit out of it? I think that's a great question to ask when going to pitch to investors. Um, and yeah, I think that in a way it's good to also act as the prize, and not the investor as being the prize for the startup, because there is plenty of investors out there. There is plenty of investment firms, and I don't think that getting capital is actually the real problem. The real or the challenge, I would say, it's definitely finding the right investor, finding the right people that will support you, that you can see that you can work with, that they can share with you information, they can share with you knowledge, experiences that will make you grow as a person and as an entrepreneur as well. Because you might fail as a founder of that specific startup, or you might have to completely change idea. But if you have the right support at the back end of it, and that has to do as well with your team and your investors, I think you will naturally build that resilience to go through all the challenges and failures in a way, and go there and build something else that you know that the customers really want now. Or again, I think that's my thoughts about investor. We can talk about that for as much as we want, but I think that's the core of my thoughts about that.
Absolutely, Giovanni, and luckily we will have a standalone event related to pitching and investment opportunities, and we will have investors judging the pitches, so we can debate and discuss later on that for sure. And now also I would like to conclude kind of the overview of finance in a startup, simply because I believe if you have unlimited access to resources and financial capital, it always can be not enough to spend on marketing, to spend on some sales activities, to spend on R&D. And I believe, Giovanni, you had that always kind of challenge to find the right figures, how much to spend on marketing, how much to optimize expenses, how to make sure you spend enough, but kind of it's reasonable, and it brings right outcome. So my next question would be how to optimize expenses in a startup, how to make sure that you're not overspending and also you have enough resources, because it's kind of very difficult to find this balance, isn't it? So maybe you can give an advice.
Yeah, I think that it goes back in a way to that basic accounting. Either you are building an asset, or you are getting liabilities. I would say that if you are spending thousands of pounds or euros or whatever, and to get leads or to develop your product properly, I think that you are building assets in a way. And I refer to assets because in the long term they're gonna bring back value, and it's gonna be a cost that it was worth spending, since the product is gonna be the phase of your business or the service, and that's what people are going to consume and buy, and definitely leads, because you're gonna be a lot closer to actually make those sales and get some revenue in. And it might sound abstract when I say leads, but in general, or actually more specifically, if you have a tech business, if you have a physical product, I think it's great to start. I mean, at an idea stage, if you have compiled the pitch deck, you must have a buyer persona for sure already. I would have more buyer persona, multiple buyer persona for sure, and yeah, go there and talk to them, get email lists, get their telephone numbers, try to get as many informations as possible to understand your ideal clients, and stay in conversation with them. I heard a quote that really resonated with me personally. It was, your income is correlated to the number of people you're having conversations with. So now you have access to social media, you have access to internet, you can communicate on a massive scale. You can do that organically, or you can do it with paid advertising. I think that if you start testing early, it's best, because you will start understanding, oh, actually with this type of marketing we are spending let's say £1,000, and we are getting as many email as, let's say, 100. So you are in communication with them, you see how many respond, and that starts give you an indication. Obviously it's a lot about iteration, and in a way, depending on your context, in that case it's great to have somebody on board that it's technical and knows and understands the math behind that, or otherwise start asking feedback to some other experts. Just texting on LinkedIn somebody that is a marketing expert in your field, or commenting on their posts and asking questions and asking real feedback could skyrocket your marketing strategies and your sales in matter of really it will save you a lot of time for sure, because you will have someone who's expert in that field that knows your clients, and yeah, gets you closer to your goals.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. It was Giovanni Mule from Malta with Giovanni's reflection on how to optimize expenses in a startup. Tomorrow we will have a special workshop about marketing, which is definitely going to be, very insightful from his side. And please join us tomorrow. But now I would like also to invite Liliana also to give us advice on how to optimize expenses in a startup, simply because resource management is the key and super essential part of successful startup journey. Even you have a genius ideas, you still need to make sure you allocate your financial resources correctly, and you make it right. So maybe you can give an advice again how to make sure you are not overspending and you have enough resources to operate.
That's going back to the idea of having a proper business plan and understanding what are your key elements of cost, and then you look into how we can optimize that thing. So if you're talking about producing or having the cost to produce, or for services or whatever it is, so definitely is very important to see how we can create synergies, how we can create something at a much lower cost than you may have at the beginning of that specific activity. I think probably the other important thing it is looking to your marketing plan and how your marketing plan looks like, and what is this really really about, and how also you can optimize your expenses in that specific area. So you can have something which can be done at a lower cost. You may look into really getting the customers, to these ratings and reviews, and they to generate talkability. You look into how you can improve the quality of your assets, your marketing materials, the content, in order to generate this talkability without really having a high level of investment. So I would say it's critical to understand all the elements of cost within your entire business, and then to see where you can create synergies, where you can optimize, and how you can really get the best out of any investment you may have.
Thank you very much, Liliana, for your advice on how to optimize resources and optimize expenses in a startup. I think today we covered the questions related to finance and startup, from idea stage and also to a resource allocation, and making sure your finance plan is attractive for investors. In case you get any other questions, feel free to text us via our chats, the comments in YouTube, link and live LinkedIn Live. And tomorrow we will have a special workshop related to marketing strategy for a tech startup. Many questions will be focused on finding the right marketing tools and techniques in order to facilitate your sales activities. We will have two startup pitches tomorrow to judge and also to help them to build up a stronger marketing plan. Today we have Liliana Kaimekan from London. Liliana, our expert book contributor of upcoming book How to Build a Tech Startup. Giovanni Mule from Malta, also our frequent guest and also Elegant Club member. So Liliana, Giovanni, thank you very much for staying with us, for sharing your insights. It was a very in-depth talk about finding the right approach of having a strategy for finance and finding the right approach of keeping the balance, as we discussed before. So as I mentioned before, tomorrow at 6 p.m. London time, we will have an upcoming workshop about marketing strategy for a tech startup. In case you're interested to learn more about our upcoming events or information about our book project, welcome to go to our website, howtobuildatechstartup.com. You will see all the list of upcoming events live, and the following will be tomorrow. In case you get any questions, feel free to email info@elegant.club. My name is Slav Branovsky. I'm the founder of Elegant Club, host and presenter today. Today we had amazing experts and frequent contributors to our discussions. Giovanni Mule from Malta and Liliana Kaimekan from London. Thank you very much, everyone, for staying with us. See you tomorrow, 6 p.m. London time. Stay tuned and see you there.